that flyer about Jews needing to register in Ukraine is fake. Ladies and gentlemen, today in the press, even mentioned by John Kerry, Secretary of State, was a story coming out of Ukraine saying that in a Ukrainian city, the new pro-Russian government there, or the pro-Russian government there, had issued flyers saying that the Jews of the city needed to register themselves. Sounds very scary. Sounds almost like history is repeating itself. Very, very frightening stuff. Problem is, the story, well, it's not as accurate as you would think. USA Today and a bunch of other outlets picked it up and ran with it. CNN. Oh my God, Jews are being told to register by the pro-Russian government. They're trying to set the Russians up, by the way, this new whole World War III, new Cold War 2.0 attitude that they have as of late. They're trying to set up the Russians as the Nazis now. This is the new narrative by our media talking heads and the powers that shouldn't be and our politicians here in the States. That the Russians are like the Nazis. They're akin to the Nazis. And then, while you have a deal coming out to try to de-escalate the tension in the area, this happens. So let me read you a little bit about this. A flyer demanding that Jews in the Ukrainian city of Donetsk register with its pro-Russian government is fake, a Jewish advocacy group with direct contacts in the region tells the Daily Dot. Quote, "It's a fake flyer," end quote, says Leslie Weiss, deputy director of the National Conference Supporting Jews, NCSJ, which focuses its efforts on Russia, Ukraine, and the Baltic states. First reported Thursday by Israeli news organization Ynet, and then republished by USA Today, the flyers do exist, according to Weiss. So physically, the flyers exist. The flyers do exist in the physical form, meaning, yes, there are printed out forms or flyers that say this, but they were not sanctioned or printed out by the local government. So that's what they mean by fake. It's a psychological operation is what this is. That would be the better term for it. Quote, "It's not true that they have to register or be deported," end quote, says Weiss. NCSJ officials spoke directly to Jewish leadership in the city, who said that Denis Pushilin, chairman of the pro-Russian People's Government there, denied creating the pamphlets which include his name. Now, this lady, Weiss, again, she is from the Jewish advocacy group. So if there really were flyers being passed around that, oh, we got to round the Jews up, or we're going to register, or we're going to round you up and throw you out. If it were real, you would think that this Jewish advocacy group would be all over defending the Jewish people in the area. They're the ones coming out saying this is false, this is fake, it's not from the city. This isn't coming from the local government. Somebody else is putting this out. Now, why would somebody put that information out? That's what intelligence organizations would do. Maybe CIA, Mossad, who knows? I mean, Ynet was the first ones to talk about it, so I mean, I would look at the CNN or CIA and Mossad first. Honestly, it's a psychological operation. And they're saying it. The people on the ground there are saying it. I mean, they're literally saying, no, this is fake. So she says, look, they weren't. This wasn't put up by the city. These were distributed to cause anxiety amongst the city's Jewish population. It's just a question of who did it. I mean, look, it's even quoted here in the article. Members of the Jewish community are saying, quote, "It's a provocation," but they just don't know who did it. So the local Jewish community in that city even realizes that this is not real and that this is, this is fake. Now people could say, well, what about the neo-Nazis in that area? Well, maybe it was the local neo-Nazis, but they didn't say, oh, right sector or any of these other, neo-Nazi groups over in the Ukraine area. They didn't talk about any of that. That's not what they were discussing. This supposedly came from a government group, or the government itself, I should say, and it didn't. It's not accurate. It's not. CNN reported that it was accurate. All these people, these agencies here, the news agencies reported it was accurate. John Kerry made a comment saying, oh, it's grotesque. But again, it wasn't accurate. So it goes to show you, our government, if it's one of two things. Either they're running off of information that they just get, from some schmuck on Twitter. Oh my God, look what's going on. Oh, that must be accurate. The hell with any of their quote-unquote intelligence, right? What about all that? What about all the satellites and all the ground assets? So that's why that's unbelievable. It's more believable that this was actually a psychological operation put on by whether it's a special operations group or the CIA or Mossad or a collaboration of the three. It's not like it hasn't happened before, but obviously something's going on, and I would call this a psychological operation. In an interview with CNN, the U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, Jeffrey R. Pyatt, said the flyers were, quote, the real deal and called the documents chilling. Now, Weiss, the lady from the Jewish advocacy group, says her office is in contact with the U.S. ambassador and that his statements agree with what the NCJS learned from Jewish leaders. The, quote, real deal comment, she says, was likely a mere acknowledgement that the flyers do exist, not that they carry any authority imposed by the people's government in the city. And she says, look, we're in touch with him. He's saying the flyers were real, the flyers exist. But from their sources, this is the lady from the Jewish advocacy group, she's saying that from their sources, they know that the flyers were faked. But this guy is still, when you go on CNN and you say they're the real deal, see, this is why I have an issue. She says that they're in touch, and she says, well, we think that the real deal comment, she says, was likely a mere acknowledgement. You don't really know that. Obviously, it was likely. That means that's your assumption of it, lady. So you're in touch with this U.S. ambassador, and you guys are on the same page, and then he gets off the phone with you, and he goes and does an interview with CNN and says, no, those documents are the real deal. They're the real deal. They're chilling. They're not the real deal. You know they're not. So it's a lie. It's just an outright lie. And ladies and gentlemen, they would do this. Remember the Iraq incubator babies? Weapons of mass destruction? How about more recent stuff, like the most recent chemical attack in Syria? Oh, we know it was the Syrian government that gassed all those innocent people, but then all the information points that it was the quote-unquote rebels, the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda faction that our government wants to support in Syria. This is another case of something just like that. I'm telling you, this is smaller instances of the same type of thing. It's a psychological operation. In some of those instances, they were actually physical operations. This one is a psychological operation. It's done to foment distrust, create problems, and the end result is to get us, the U.S., NATO, get us more involved in what's going on there. Perhaps it's a coincidence that John McCain is trying to push for the U.S. to get involved and give arms and support to the people of Ukraine that supposedly want to fight the Russian invaders. I'm not kidding. Hey, let's give arms and munitions to the people that want to fight the Russians. Yeah, let's pick a fight with the Russians. Let's start World War III all over again. So I just wanted to let you know, because I know it's parading through the news, that flyer that's being paraded around about the Jews need to register or you're going to be deported in the Ukraine, it's fake. The flyer is not, physically it exists, but it's not put out by the government. It was done as a psychological operation by somebody to create anxiety and distrust in that area amongst the Jewish community against the pro-Russian government. So anybody with half a brain could figure out perhaps where these flyers might have come from. Somebody with connections to the opposite side? Perhaps. I don't know. The people that want to support and start World War III? I don't know. NATO? The United States, government, and all these other governments. Again, it's not the people of the United States, by the way. All you people that live in Europe and anybody that lives over in the Ukraine, us citizens don't want to bomb you. I know I don't want to go to war with Russia and start a battle for something that's retarded. We don't want to fight you. Most of the American people don't want to get involved and bomb. It's just our psychotic politicians, okay? And there's a lot of us that are trying to do things about it, like wake the general populace up here so that this stuff doesn't happen and we can actually reverse course. So just remember, not all Americans are bad. There are some of us that are good out there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, check me out over on Twitter, at Federal Jack, and my other account is at DTRH_Popeye, at DTRH_Popeye, and at Federal Jack. You can find me over on YouTube. Multiple channels. Busiest one is Federal Jack Tube and the number 6. Federal Jack Tube and the number 6. And my radio show archive channel, DTRH Radio Archives. DTRH, down the rabbit hole, Radio Archives, over on YouTube. And, of course, my website, federaljack.com, where there is tons of free information, free downloads, whole huge free downloadable archive section of all my radio shows. There's videos there, ebooks, audio files, just a ton of stuff. It's a repository of information. Go check it out. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, as I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I love you all. I'm out of here.